This is like my 5th time filming this because none of them would upload onto my computer so I can edit them, and I'm losing my mind. So now I'm trying on an actual camera, hoping it will work if I have enough storage. Okay, so let's get right into it. Today I'm talking about Handbook for Mortals by Lani Sarum, who is kind of like a D-list, really low tier celebrity, and she has some connections, so that's how she got this idea, because it was already originally going to be a screenplay for a movie. And her friend, that one American Pie actor, his name is Thomas Ian Nicholas, if you might recognize him. He told her to turn it into a book to accumulate a YA audience, which is really smart because that's kind of like what Twilight and like Harry Potter, Hunger Games, stuff like that did. And they all got turned into pretty good movies that got tons of fans and stuff like that. So the basic plot is we're following a girl named Zaid. I don't remember her last name. She's a very boring character. We're following a girl named Zaid who moves from her hometown to Las Vegas to star in a premiere magic show and performs her tricks, but little does everybody know she actually has magic. So her tricks are not illusions, and she basically is kind of like, I don't know, pretending that she's some great illusionist, but she's not. And then the rest of the plot just kind of disappears, and it just completely is just her trying to figure out, oh, should I be with this guy or this guy? Jackson or Mac? Which we'll get into, I think part 2, because I'm filming this in 2 parts. So let's get right into the controversy. So Lani's most famous gig was managing Jackson Rathbone's band 100 Monkeys. If you guys were to know who Jackson Rathbone is, he was in Twilight. He was Jasper. Hello? Yeah, he was Jasper, and he had a band that Lani Sarum got together, and she did manage a couple bands. She was also in a couple movies, and she just, she knew a lot of people. So Handbook for Mortals was her debut novel, and it was a very low, nobody knew what it was, there was no advertising done about it, and then one fateful day, it just popped up to New York Times #1 best-selling in the first, day or week within it got out, because you need to sell at least 5,000 copies in the first week to be able to get on the New York Times best-selling list, and she sold 18,000 copies. And so she was #1 and on the list for about 23 hours before she was taken off completely, and it bumped down The Hate U Give to #2, which it was returned after she was taken down to The Hate U Give, rightfully so. So people were like, what is this book, and how did it get to #1 so quickly without anybody knowing what it was? And she said that she went around touring and different conventions. She didn't go to conventions like Comic-Con. She went to the smaller ones that had maybe 20,000 people max. One of the major ones that she went to, she said that she got about 90 to 95% of the people there to buy her book, pre-order her book, and that's why they had 18,000 copies sold. Yeah, so I don't think so, because at the time, at that convention, she didn't have a cover for her book. So why would these people buy, even if you want to say, I don't judge a book by its cover, why would people, we had nothing. She had, the basic plot of the book at the time and nothing else. So obviously people did their research on this and found out it was bought in bulk. 18,000 copies of them were bought through a website by somebody that would buy books and pull them off the shelves in bulk from stores that contribute to the New York Times best-selling list. And yeah, and turns out the person who bought all 18,000 copies, well, not all, I'm sure somebody picked up one, but like most of them was, so most of them were bought by Thomas Ian Nicholas, her friend that recommended her to turn it into a book before you turned it into a movie. And that was like a huge thing. That was a huge scandal, which rightfully so, because that is so sketchy. That is so unethical to do. So, and then she said some more lies. I don't know where he is in all of this, because I think he like published her book, but yeah. So then she said actually, if you search it up, there is an interview. I'm not going to put it here because it's going to be too long, but there is an interview where she's like proudly parading the fact that she was taken off the New York Times bestselling list in under 24 hours, like 23 hours, because she was the first one to ever be taken off, and let alone be taken from number 1 and then just completely disappear off the list. She said it was because her character was 20 years old and it did not fit in the YA category, but at the time, people were still, like, I think ACOTAR was on the list at the time, so this happened like 3-4 years ago. Yeah. And we all know what happened in ACOTAR. And then she blamed the YA community for not accepting new voices and talking about discrimination, because the main character is white. She's white, and she gets discriminated because her mother practiced tarot reading or whatever. And she's like, the YA community does not let new authors and debut authors talk about stuff, and they're accepting. I'm just like, you bump down the hate you give. The Hate You Give, which is a debut author's novel, and it was a debut novel, and it talked about discrimination. So I don't really know what you're talking about here, Lanny. So I'm gonna get into like the writing and everything, because that gets really bad in like the second part. And so then it doesn't just stop there. Like a year later, after getting a bunch of 1-star reviews on Goodreads, and that's where most of the reviews are. There aren't many reviews on Amazon. I'll put up like a picture here somewhere. They got an influx of 5-star reviews from like nowhere. And they just basically, like, it was obviously bots. Like, if you were to see the Amazon reviews, I think it's like at 4. It's like 4 stars right now or something, because nobody reviews on Amazon. But the Goodreads review is still at 1.29 or something. And so she said she sold the movie rights to this book, and that she would be writing a whole series, and like there will be 5 movies that will come out, which is I hope they don't, but it's been 4 years and they haven't. And so then we're going to move on to the cover art controversy. I think I went through this really fast compared to my other times. I guess I'm not ranting as much. But like, so the cover art is stolen. This is, Jesus Christ. This is the amazing art and wonderful art by Gilda Mac or Gilda Mace. And Delmace, I think it's Gil Delmace or Gil Delmac. And then this is the cover of Handbook for Mortals, side by side. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That's actually so crappy. Like, I did not think you could stoop that low. Lanny Sarum said she saw more differences than similarities. And I'd be like, are you blind? Girl, you blind. And then she said that it was just heavily influenced. It's just full on stolen. And then, okay, so basically on Goodreads, there's a part where she said, I'm gonna go to Goodreads right now. Okay, so basically, you know how it's like a love triangle story? She literally says that. So she says that it's like this, it's just really problematic. The book itself doesn't seem to be that problematic, but it's just like a bag of cliches, which I'll get into next week. I think I'll be uploading the second part of this. It's just really trashy writing too. Like, she wrote it as if it was like a screenplay or like a movie. She violates show don't tell. She just does a lot of stuff that you don't want to see in a book, like literally a self-insert. Like, she literally casted herself, which I'll also get into. Yeah, like, it's just, there's like a lot of girl hate in this book. Like, it's like, I'm not like other girls. Like, the book starts off with a cliche. It's just not good. But this is it. I'll see you guys.